So, hello and good evening to another edition of the series Break the Rules, powered by Disrupt HR, an information exchange uh, platform designed to energize, inform, and empower the HR community, not just the HR community, anyone who wants to disrupt the norm. And Mojo Karma, an organization dedicated to providing coaching and mentorship to early and mid-stage leaders to accelerate the career. We also have programs for women who want to restart the career and get back to the main workforce. And we also offer leadership coaching. So today we'll be discussing on how talent acquisition has been disrupted due to COVID and what will be the new norm post-COVID. And talking about this would be Swati Adanki, location head, talent acquisition, Wipro Hyderabad. Swati, would you like to introduce yourself a bit more? Like talk about your experiences?
Yeah, so hi everyone, a very good evening. And hello to all the fellow panelists. So I'm Swati and I've got about 17 years of industry experience and to talent acquisition mainly. I'm very passionate about hiring talent and I've worked in multiple industries such as manufacturing, high-tech technology, BFSI, healthcare. Yes, and also I've been lucky enough that also worked in multiple facets of talent acquisition, including lateral hiring, contingent hiring, talent branding, and currently responsible for special initiatives such as diversity and inclusiveness.
Oh, great, Swati. I mean, Swati and myself, we've been colleagues, and I know her passion for recruitment. She gets very competitive.
Welcome, Swati.
Welcome. And next we have Lakshman Kumar Kodupaka, Talent Acquisition Head at Allied Solution for the APAC region. So Lakshman, a brief intro about yourself and what's your expectations from today's session?
Okay. Thank you, firstly, Jayashree, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. So myself, Lakshman Kodupaka. I prefer to call as Laksh. So I'm in the industry from last 17 years. And I'm currently heading the talent acquisition for Allied, which is one of the world's largest HCM company. And through my journey, I worked in startups. I worked in typical service companies, product companies. And in my current role, I head the talent acquisition for almost 10 different countries with wide variety of cultures. And other than that, I'm very passionate towards HR. I lead a group of HR people. Outside my organization also, we have a group of HR people where I'm very fond of sharing the best practice in the group. And I also lead the CSR wing for Allied for Hyderabad. And other than that, I'm also the colleague-led community leader for Asia Pacific Network, which we have within the company. So today takeaway session, definitely I would like to brainstorm how things are happening across the industry. And I would like to share personally my experience, how COVID-19 has brought a lot of changes in the company, as well as how we are seeing the way forward.
Great, Lakshman. Welcome. And next we have Aditya Narayan Mishra, Director and CEO of Seal HR Services. So welcome, Aditya. Please introduce yourself.
First of all, thank you, Jayashree. Thank you, Sabha, for hosting me for this webinar. That's a wonderful initiative that you all have started. So talking briefly about myself, I have been in the HR services space since 99 January. So it's about roughly about 22 years I have been here in this particular industry. Before this, I worked in L&T for about close to 7 years. Over the last 22 years, I had the opportunity of working across industry sectors. In the last 5 years, as CLHR, we provide recruiting and staffing services. So about 10,000 temp employees work for about 200 companies spread across the country. And we are a team of roughly about 300 people who recruit for thousands of organizations. Of course, COVID-19 has sort of hampered our ambitions and created some hindrances, but I do believe that this is temporary. The life of an organization is pretty long. So I look forward to today's conversation where many experienced people like Swati, Lakshman, and hopefully some of the members of the audience ask some questions, and we take back something, some new learnings, new perspectives, which are helpful for each one of us in the journey up ahead.
That's great, Aditya. Welcome. And finally, Jayashree is the host for today's evening. She's the CEO and the founder of Appraise and co-founder of Mojo Karma. So over to you, Jayashree.
Thanks, Sabha. A warm welcome to all the panelists. And so today I am very happy to have our panel members here to talk about how are we breaking the rules in the talent acquisition in the post-COVID, which is in the new normal, right? So let's, I've been reading quite a bit on how things have changed. We always have been talking about the VUCA world, but I think the COVID came and it changed everything overnight for us, right? And and then when COVID came, talent acquisition was greatly affected. Also, I should say, because a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people are looking for jobs, companies are reinventing ways how to go about and get the right people. So with all that, when people are looking ahead, I want to just take a minute back and see how has it changed for you because of COVID-19? How has the talent acquisition changed for you overnight? And what are you experiencing because of that? So we can, yeah, Swati, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. I think the complete industry has been affected, and so is talent acquisition. So it's no different. Having said that, currently, I think the way I see it is that we are looking at a more evolved workforce, landscape of workforce. So we're talking about today a lot of talent pool, wherein we're looking at people who are freelancers, contingent workforce, because the business dynamics are changing very fast. So the overlook of talent is in a holistic approach, I would say that. Okay, and I think digitalization also is going to form a very a strong role here. While this was always a forward-looking priority for the businesses, but with this pre-COVID world, I would say that the impact of COVID has forced this has to be the necessary imperative. Right, so we've moved a lot of processes like sourcing and screening to online assessment tools to reduce the dependency on offline setups, and interviews have moved to virtual setups. And so we've moved from onboarding conventional to, is replaced with the virtual onboarding process, and also for the talent engagement strategies, So we've kind of engaging talent pool also through, virtual webinars like this, and trying to keep them motivated. I also know a lot of organizations who are currently talking about AI and chatbots, so that a lot of processes will be moved on to like screening. Maybe your chatbot can initially, do the initial screening, right? So also, I feel that the hiring strategies are also, are adapting to the, changing business dynamics. So, we've started to include elements of flexibilities in terms of work schedules, right? With all this work from home, we're like continuously working. So the employers like us, we are all understanding, and we're trying to look at flexible work schedules, okay? And, in terms of a talent pool, we're looking at a talent pool who have the broader ability to, reskill themselves so that they're always productive because of the uncertainty. So they will be fastly reskilled and can be deployed. Okay, and also the primary objective for any HR professional, I would say that we are kind of looking at hiring the right talent with the right attitude and the mindset, who are actually strong and resilient during such kind of crisis situations. This all actually has made us sit back and actually give a deeper thought to all of us. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thanks, Swati. I think you kind of touched upon the overall landscape with how it's changing with the freelancing gig workers. I was reading an article today, is the world moving towards the hourly workforce, right? And the digitization, which has come overnight, and also the virtual onboarding and entire learning and development, everything moving on to the
Yes,
online.
absolutely.
So you touched, thank you for that. So Aditya or Lakshman, what has been your take? How has the talent acquisition changed for you because of
Yeah.
COVID-19?
Sure. I think in the early March, we were the first company to declare work from home. I still remember on March 5th, that's when we were having lunch and one case triggered in Mindspace, and that's we were all panicked that something is going to happen, and we all left the office in just a span of 15 minutes of time. And from there till today, what has changed was initially we had challenges of acquiring the talent because most of them were in a dilemma whether I should move or not. Because I am safe in the current company, is it really worth to move in my current organization and make a change? That was the first challenge we faced. And second thing was the insecurity among the employees, like what is going to happen, the fear of unknown. And there was also kind of insecurity within the market, like some companies took the opportunity to clean up their talent gaps, as well as some companies made effort to reduce their cost because they were severely affected. So these were something which affected the industry. Because we are in the HCM business, our companies, our clients or the companies which we serve with are directly impacted because we serve for them. We are in multiple industries, and fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have a competition in our business. We have a very close competition with ADP in the similar business which we serve with. But otherwise, we are very much independent as a offering what we do. And next challenge, what we have seen was, in fact, there was always a belief or a myth, I would say, like operations or BPO cannot work from home. And they were always under the pressure, like saying that you need to log 9 hours, you cannot take breaks, and you should answer this many calls, or this is your SL and all. This was something which was always a kind of a fear of unknown to the business, like how would we manage the operation business? Because close to one third of the population of Allied actually has a BPO business. And we are in multiple locations, and most of this talent is young talent, right? Some are Gen Z, some are millennials. So we were kind of not clear how we are going to manage this new normal. So the most important thing which our leadership emphasized was people connect, and we make sure that we had buddies within the organization so that they're constantly in touch with them. And every leadership team had a set of people who were continuously interacting with these employees so that they are not left kind of left alone. And there were some people, employees who were not local to Hyderabad and sitting in Hyderabad, not able to travel to a different place. So there were multiple issues which were there. From the talent acquisition standpoint, the good thing what happened to us is today we can work virtually anywhere. There is no more a position where the candidate can only work in Hyderabad or in Bangalore or in Chennai. No,
That's right.
the business is able to take a concrete decision saying that yes, this position can be virtually onboarded. That's the first change. Second thing is we have always had a belief that I need to see candidate face to face, or I had a set of questions, I will ask these questions. There was always a technology which was there, but it was only a standby. We had our own perceptions and beliefs in using the technology. So there has been adherence to the technology in the system, and people started using assessments. We have our own online assessments. So people started using behavioral assessments. People started using whatever the tools, employee engagement tools. So there is a kind of discipline which got through in the system. And most importantly, I would say, at least in my team, in the earlier days, since I'm connected globally with all the countries, I used to speak hardly maybe once in a fortnight or once in a week. Today, I get a chance to talk to my team very often, at least twice or once in a week for sure. And we are connected now in a WhatsApp group. Otherwise, we always had a perception that, oh, why do I need a personal number? Because I always had a preference to talk in the office messenger or maybe in an email. So there has been a good bonding which has developed over this time. And definitely we as an organization also are very cognizant about the personal space which we want to give to the employee. But technology is one game changer, definitely, I would say, has improved. And this is going to be the future game changer for talent acquisition. And most importantly, what we have been also reviewing is we are also looking at our cost, because as an organization, we have made a decision that we are not going to cut the jobs. So what we are going to do is how we can increase the productivity, how we can maximize the efficiency of employees. So we are looking at where is our high cost, like it could be US, it could be Europe. So we are trying to see what kind of these jobs can be outsourced to low-cost centers like China, like Philippines, like India, Indonesia. These are the countries which we are focusing where will be our growth plans. Like BPO is one such place where we have already identified like Philippines could be one of the best place after India. So that kind of strategy as an organization, we are doing it, and we are very, very successful in kind of managing this pandemic, and we will be successful in the future as well.
Great points, Lakshman, and especially, you know, when it changed that, when you touched upon the fear of the unknown, and then the talent gap and how to increase the talent gap within the organization, and how the talent acquisition itself has changed, right, in terms of assessments, behavioral assessments, face to face. Earlier, every person who hired in the company wanted to meet the candidate face to face to make that final call. And so now they are accepting technology, because and the person can be anywhere. Earlier it used to be on location, I need this person, but now the person can be anywhere. And especially you must have had your challenges in the BPO industry, because it was all like, you know, working at odd times, and whether they're people, and you, I hope you had to trust your employees quite a bit at this time, because earlier they used to come to the office and do.
Yep.
So with the, I think great points from you, hoping to learn more on the course of our discussion.
Sure.
Aditya, how has it changed being on the HR services business? How has it changed yours?
Yeah, it has been, of course, challenging, because several organizations are looking at doing things more with less. So how they can do a lot of stuff with less resources and increase productivity. I think that's the key change that I see, and that has been accelerated as far as COVID-19, this pandemic is concerned. So just taking the points a little further, the points that Lakshman and Swati have already elaborated. I'll just take the point on, for example, the assessment side that Lakshman talked about. So what I'm observing, whatever he has said, that's correct. We are seeing that happen with our organizations, with our clients that we service. And the assessments that we perform on behalf of our clients, we do a lot of those digital assessments these days. But one change which has happened is many organizations are today looking at reviewing the competencies that they were seeing for their people. For each of the roles, the competencies that they had identified, do those competencies hold good, or there should be some changes? We know of organizations where they said that, hey, business is becoming a lot more volatile, a lot more uncertain, so we want agility. So, of course, agility as a value, everybody valued. There wasn't anybody who did not value agility. But today, the priority of certain competencies has gone up higher. So, to that extent, I mean, agility is just an example. Like that, there are quite a few, the competency framework for each of the role for recruitment as well as for development purposes are being relooked, and some new competencies are being introduced in the assessment process. So that is one change that I would like to present. The second one, I think, about the composition of the talent pool. Swati talked about gig workers, contingency, workforce, and permanent employees. I think the workforce strategy of organizations is changing. You know, it was earlier there in the conversation, particularly in the last 18 months before pandemic hit. There were a lot of discussions already, because the world economy was already in many parts going through rough patches, including India's. So organizations were looking at fine-tuning the engine, right? So this particular event, in my mind, has accelerated that process. So which role needs to be permanent? Which role needs to be on third-party contractual agency or contingency workforce? And which role needs to be completely outsourced? You know, all of these three have their own dimensions of thinking and own dimensions of challenges. As far as the talent acquisition is concerned, employee engagement is concerned, the way you manage confidentiality, privacy, and information security, and all of that. So I think that is another thing which is changing in the domain of talent acquisition. Then, if I may talk about the third point, linked with the first opening statement that I made about organizations having learned to do more with less, I think a lot of organizations, particularly IT, professional services companies, engineering companies, services companies, are now thinking of is there a better way of managing their bench, the resources. Some people have come up with the name of liquid workforce. Liquid workforce in the sense that these people are there within the organization. They're liquid. They can take the shape of the team that they go to. That's the nature of liquid, right? So the liquid workforce as a concept is that these people who are on bench, they need to be more transparent. The organization needs to have transparent system where people are able to see that. So the resource management group, which is a very established function in professional services companies, today is looking at, is there better way to utilize these resources better? Because today there are a lot of demand of expertise, and that demand could be for a very short period of time. So if there is a better system where this expert goes and works in a particular project for just a few hours, could be for 32 hours, spread over 2 weeks period. And the same resource works for 40 hours on another project, which is spread over 4 weeks. That's possible. So these are new methods of, call it, resource management, which is happening not only in IT, I see in engineering consulting companies, at least some of that is being talked about. So these are, I thought, the 3 points that I'll start presenting the audience with.
Oh, great points, Aditya. Especially, this is a new thing which it's like, when companies are looking at the competencies, because the job roles have changed because of the COVID, and what capabilities the person needs to have, and composition of the talent pool. I think that is what is changed quite a bit, and where companies can leverage all talent right now and find out what is the right mix depending on what workforce strategy they have, they want to go with, right? So great points, Aditya. So what I would like to hear from you all is, in the new norm, from a talent acquisition point of view, what can the candidates or the people who are looking for jobs expect the new norm to be, right, when they're applying for a job? What is it that they need to be prepared for?
Okay. Do you want me to take that?
Yep, sure. Go ahead.
All right. I think candidates, first of all, need to be lot more flexible. First of all, lot more flexible than what they were earlier, because there are organizations are looking for. We talked about agility as a value. I think across industry sectors, everybody is now looking at people. Can they be flexible? Can they adapt very quickly? Secondly, people need to be prepared to be lifelong learners. We talk about IT industry keeps on doing reskilling, training people, their existing workforce on new skills, new technologies, because that industry is quite dynamic. But I don't think at this point of time, let's say a salesperson for an FMCG company, typically, traditionally, if somebody got into a sales role in an FMCG company, the person thinks that now I need to just excel in my career and do better, as much better as I can do in my career. There is nobody really thinks of what is the new learning that I need to do as a salesperson. But I think times are changing. So what are the new methods of sales techniques are coming up? There are so many forums. There is so much of learning available today, online learning programs, universities. There is, I think that's extremely critical today. That, for example, how to use digital tools in sales effectiveness, as an example. And at some point of time, you are a mid-level sales manager. So how is there a new way of managing the sales team, especially in the current context? You know, the sales as a function has undergone tremendous amount of change. So never a mid-level to senior level salesperson in his or her imagination would have thought that I need to learn new things about sales. So I think this is the second thing that the candidates need to keep in mind. Third, I think they need to understand that there is a lot of transience about uh, businesses. So today, a role which is doing very well and a performer who is doing well and a business which is doing well is no guarantee that this would be successful 10 years down the line. Uh, when the world leader like a Gillette, it can be challenged, and 10% of the sales can be reduce because of the challenger brands who have come up. Who would have thought 10 years ago that Gillette can be challenged at all? I mean, they are like a market leader. So whether it is your, SAP could say that, hey, we are the market leader, and but I think there are things could change. The region in which one is working or the vertical in which one is working might suddenly, due to certain reasons beyond one's control, could actually transform. So the job is not going to be permanent. So in that sense, one has to, like our, for example, the people who were born in the 60s and 50s never thought that they have to, their job will go away. In the white collar jobs I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the blue collar jobs like the farm hands and the factory workers and all that. They never thought about it. If they got a job, possibly two jobs in life, for the people who were born in the 70s, two jobs, three jobs is like you have changed many jobs. But now possibly it's about the people who are born in the 80s and 90s, I think will have many more job changes, which means that there could be some times where they do not have an active employment. So they need to do their financial planning in certain way that there could be some gaps where one has to invest in certain kind of learning. So which is a very difficult. You may be from the best of institutes, and the number of startups which happen and people work in the startups and what happens to those startups, many times due to reasons much outside somebody's control, things could change. So these are the at least three important points I would like to kind of at a very high level like to present.
Yep. Thanks, Aditya. And Lakshman, Swati?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, we've pretty much almost have discussed that definitely the workforce have to be very resilient and should be adaptable because, there's a lot of business uncertainty. But having said that, I'm actually, although Aditya has already cleared from a candidate perspective how they need to be geared up, but from an organization point of view, the way I look at it is we need to recenter our business processes around candidate and the candidate experience right now. Because with more openings so we are all fighting. I'm coming from a service organization, so I understand we all want the same talent, right? So even the candidates are seeing more perks and benefits than ever. So they just want to know what is it for them. So we also have to be working harder to keep them engaged. And from the first interaction, we need to keep them delighted, right? So, and also we spoke about this holistic approach of the talent pool, right? I'm saying let it be any type of hire what we might make. So it might be temporary or freelance workers. What I would say is that your talent strategy should involve around definitely, impressing that talent pool, because we are all again in the same game trying to hire, right? And also again the same thing would come in the technology also, because the screening process and all, we've kind of moving really fast, and we've got online assessments. I think Lakshmi has already pointed out earlier as well. And yes, again, with all this keeping in mind, also there is always the organization want to hire the diversity and the inclusion talent pool, because that's going to be a game changer for them, because of a different thought process. And we want to these days, I think everyone from a child, we all are taught that we want to work in an inclusive environment, right? So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I would like to add one point.
Lakshmi,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
So today, in this situation, or maybe post this situation, we will move away from the legacy standpoint. So we will be more of a skill diversity. So I would not use the word diversity in inclusion, but we will use the word new concept called skill diversity. That means I will no longer hire a person for a specific job or a specific skill. So suppose if I'm hiring a SAP functional consultant, that means I will no longer look at only SAP as his foundry skill. He should, or he or she should be able to have the potential to look forward for the new skills, or maybe the potential enablement which we look at. So that is that is something which the business will be very focused. That person should be very agile in terms of his skills, and he should have that skills where he can invest himself, and at the same time the person should have the potential to explore and learn more. That is one thing. And also what I have seen, especially in the recent few months, is maybe due to this pandemic, I don't know, I cannot comment, but sometimes candidates are very, very casual. I don't know why. We have seen even in the video interviews, they are just taking it as a casual, and they're not even thinking that it's a formal interview. So they don't even appear to be the right way, which was expected as earlier. So I think that is something which the candidates, or from the employee standpoint, nothing will change. So even it applies to the employee who is working from home. You should also create your own workspace, and ensure that you are the way you are coming to the office, if you are in that way and managing yourself, I think that way you can enjoy. Otherwise, you just fall flat very soon. And the most important thing what I have seen is the candidate, I think Aditya already touched upon, is the learning curve should never stop. You're going into uncertainty world. So if I remember, maybe when I joined about 15, 16 years industry, or even before that, the HR was treated as an operations team. Or maybe if you go back little more far ahead, stenographer was, or a personal assistant was what HR was looking at. And then we moved, transformed to operations, and then came the recruitment and administration. So the legacy changed. Now the business is looking as a solution partner. So we are the strategy of the business. So what are the key decisions we make, what are the value add we make to the business, I think that is going to make a serious impact to the business. So our talent strategy plan would be aligned to the market, as well as the same way the candidate also are going into a volatile market, which is very, very uncertain. So this is the right platform. I'm sure as soon as the market goes back, you will see a lot of changes. Gig economy could pick up very, very fast in India. And also you will have a lot of Gen Zs. These are very, very passionate. These are entrepreneurial mindset. So they may not work in the way which we expect, like 3 years or 4 years commitment to a company. No, we need to have our own talent engagement plans, where we give that opportunity for them to learn. So things will be different. And as an organization, as an employee, or as a prospective employee also, we all need to be ready for that.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, the common theme emerges is you need to be flexible, you need to be learning all the time, and then skilling, and both ways, both from an organization point of view as well as a candidate. That's something which they need to be prepared for. So moving ahead, you all touched upon how you have changed into assessments and behavioral assessments, and technology has become a part of it. what can we go a little bit deeper onto it and see how is it really helping you identify the right talent you want to in terms of the whole, how has it changed your acquisition strategy? I know you had many companies already had assessments, or for some they always probably depended on face-to-face interviews. Now, does having an interview over the video conversation, is that good enough, or are the people able to judge the body language and interviewing skills, are they changing? So what are the changes which are happening because of technology, and how is really the different technologies are helping you to find the right candidate?
Yeah, I would take this question. So in fact, we use a tool called Modern Hire. This is basically our assessment tool for our candidate experience as well as for the recruitment process. So what we used to do, especially for the graduate hires or maybe the volume hires, we used to end up a lot of time visiting the campus, spending time there. I know it is definitely a brand identity, but what happened is it used to consume a lot of time in terms of travel, cost, as well as we used to spend a lot of time in terms of validating assessments and all. So today, what this particular product helps us is I can define my own set of questions, and I can create a video type question. I can create a question which has a time bound. That means I'm talking to you, you're asking a question within a span of 30 seconds, that questions disappear. At the same time, it helps me to stack rank where this particular person. So it has multiple features inbuilt. At the same time, it gives me an opportunity to understand his interpersonal skills. Like how, if I ask a scenario-based questions, so this particular person, how is he responding or how is she responding, and how much lead time the person is taking to act or understand his thought process, and how many attempts the person is making towards attempting that question. So there are definitely no anomalies in the process. Another thing is I can schedule the live interview and I don't need to be in the interview. So today I have my questions ready and I uploaded the questions. So the candidate can take at his own convenient time. So that means we are operating on a 24/7. That means anybody can take the process as per their own flexibility. The assessments are happening as per the candidate flexibility because we are scheduling the assessment. Second thing, the interview panel is taking the questions and getting the answers at his own flexibility. So whenever I time, I put the questions and the person is answering based on that. And I can see the live response. And the recruiter also get all the data and statistics in a graphical way so that he can analyze better way. And most importantly, what I discover after candidate onboarding is the particular person is not having enough interpersonal skills, or he cannot communicate or she cannot communicate with the client, or her body language is not that great. So we get often all these complaints, and then we record, we put them into the training program, and all this cycle goes on. Now, at least in particular conversation, I can understand how the particular person is acting. So we believe in a concept called STAR approach. Basically, our interview assessment goes on: situation, task, action, and result oriented. So when I get into this particular assessment of the candidate, I have an ability to pose a lot of questions. So I can observe in live like how it is. And the same way, what I also observed as an individual in my experience is your body language or your behavior pattern, you'll be more cautious in a video interview rather than your in-personal interview. Say, suppose I'm taking an interview to the candidate. When I'm on a video interview, I'll be more cautious and I'll be putting forward my questions in a different way rather than when I'm speaking to a person. Sometimes there's a high possibility that we get very, very casual in in-person discussion. So we also observe these patterns over there, and our assessments are definitely helping us. And the other thing also what I've seen is basically the cost savings in terms of our efforts and time.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know more about this technology which is helping you. Swati, Aditya, how are you all seeing? What
So I
type
think
of
there's a
technologies you see?
Yeah, I see there's a huge influence in terms of technology, especially in, I think, the complete HR industry, having said the talent acquisition too. So, like Aditya, I mean, Lakshman has spoken about the probably the tool, the application ATS tool, what they're using and how they're doing the assessment. So I would just probably want to talk the other part of it in terms of, I think, you know, I mean, we've moved the data business on cloud. So all the ATS tools today are talking about cloud storage, so that you know, it's obviously very cost effective. And we're talking about analytics here. So you know, analytics in terms of big data analytics will help you understand and make a decision faster, right? You could always go back and analyze how many people have joined from which organization, what are your metrics, who are your top performers, you name it, you are able to analyze everything. And blockchain in terms of security, I think that's one of the most important aspects I would see. It adds up to the transparency with the blockchain in HR. I think recruiters can access the data from anywhere because we're all working remotely, but at the same time, the organization can be assured that the data is safe from being theft and tampering, right? So that's also a very important aspect these days. And I think we all understand, and one thing is like on social media hiring. So I think today we are all able to engage our talent on social media, right? Though we've kind of in it, but it has been a substantial increase. So we are all crawling up and trying to connect with them personally on the Facebook and Insta pages and trying to have the personal connect and trying to see, you know, build a relationship. As I said, right, so hiring a candidate has moved to giving an experience to him. What is the bond that you build with him will help you hire the best talent, yes.
Aditya, your thoughts?
Just to add to what Swati and Lakshman said, I'll possibly just add a couple of things about how technology is being used in talent acquisition. One is in terms of you know, managing the applications which come in. In India, we observe one thing. I can say that for sure for all recruitment service providers like us, we tend to receive thousands of applications. There are a lot more candidates looking for jobs than the number of jobs. So if Swati, for example, puts an ad on LinkedIn or on Naukri.com, she will receive like hundreds of applications. And out of that, how many actually match her requirement is very low. So what happens is, for a recruiter, traditionally what they do is they don't tend to look at the incoming applications because simply they don't have the time. So it is like, out of the 200 applications that you have received, maybe 2 are relevant or 5 are relevant, but who has the time to really go through this 200? So you know, there are technology tools available. We in CL HR use a technology tool like that, which kind of automatically crawls all the recruiters within our company, and every day keeps on adding those applications into our database. And when we require to fill an job order, or a position that we need to recruit for, so the tool again goes, searches within that and picks the best. And if we advertise on social media, on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or whatever applications come, it filters it automatically. It does some automation by which, if the score of the candidate is below, the match score is below certain threshold, automatically the candidate is intimated that, hey, you did not match the requirements, this job is not the best for you. So the candidate experience is given a better experience, number one, and hence the employer brand is protected. And secondly, what happens is the recruiter effectiveness or efficiency improves, because the recruiter is no longer bombarded with 200. Now the recruiter has to go through 40, and out of 45 they can pick the best and top. So this is one intervention which has happened. We have done it in our company, and I'm sure there are a few other companies who have done it. So that is one. Second point that I want to say is, a lot of these candidates reference check. You know, many organizations background verification. There are so many background verification companies in our country, but the way the background verification happens by most companies is just simple set of administrative tasks. I think right now companies are looking at how to do this. Look at the behavior of the candidate on social media and use that information in reference check. Though this particular technology is at this point of time in its early days, but I think in the next couple of years, this is going to become much stronger. So companies like us, recruitment service providers like us, actually would bring this value to our clients, because that's how you not only evaluate the credential of this person, but also certain unsaid aspects which are hidden, because we have access to not only that candidate but many other connections of the candidate. If I have a tool which kind of monitors what kind of articles this person is looking at, what kind of engagement the person is doing, and by artificial intelligence you can monitor the areas of likes and dislikes, the kind of a social profile can be built in that sense. So that's another thing which is the new normal, I would like to say. Yeah.
Very interesting, Aditya, that social profile. And
Yeah.
it very well resonates with me from my other appraise profile part of it. But yeah,
I think
but
there
I
are
think
already companies which are doing social profiling. In fact, one of my friend owns a background check company. He presented me a concept before this pandemic, saying that he is developing an application which is integrated with the background verification check that talks about what kind of contacts you have in LinkedIn, what kind of dislikes or likes you make in Facebook, what kind of followers you have in Twitter. So that tells me whether you are a social going person, what kind of personality, basically, like what are the 16 personality types we have, right? This will help me indicate at a first instance, like whether this particular person is your real go. I know personality differs from individual to individual, but at least you get a clear idea on a particular person even before you talk. For example, I don't talk to any profile without even looking at the LinkedIn profile. So first, that is my first sanity check. And then also the concept which Aditya told, like it also LinkedIn solutions, it helps you to analyze who are your common connections, or probably wherever you happen to work in the previous experience, do you want to really take a reference? So that also helps me an opportunity to understand whether this particular person has the set of connections which I'm looking at, or is this the right approach I can do for my sensitive hiring? So that's what.
right, yeah, the technology is evolving every day, especially the HR tech, I think, has created a lot. This pandemic has created a lot more opportunities for HR tech, I would say. That goes to my one last question before we take questions from our audience. What are the challenges and the gaps you see in talent acquisition post-COVID?
I have one challenge, so probably I don't know how many companies have witnessed it, but today one of my friend was calling me before this session. Lakshman, there was or last 2-3 candidates we interviewed for a testing position. A person attended the interview for 4 rounds, and all the 4 rounds have been taken by one person, but on the day of joining, one more person.
Yes, that's right.
The impersonification is what we call, right? So this is what is happening. I said, you put these checks and balances is what I conveyed. No, it's a surprise that even the joining formalities also, the person is coming, but then sometimes other person is working out because virtually we are not engaged. So this could be one of a challenge which especially service companies will see, because they will hire in a lot of volume. And especially you'll have these challenges in the volume hiring, because there is a high possibility of vanilla skills like testing or .NET or mainframes, where these particular skills can be easily managed with your fake experience. So this could be one challenge, especially for small startup companies. They might have to face or come with a different way to manage these kind of possible errors in the interview process.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with Lakshman, because being from a service-based organization, I understand this is obviously one of the main challenges. So we're very cautious in terms of all this virtual interviewing. But there, as I said, so I think technology is advanced. I think they've understood the need already. You've got so many tools in the market. So we are also exploring few. We've got HireVue, which wherein they do video-based interviews. Having said that, they do the interviewing technique is different in sense. More of a problem solving, or certain games are given so that you know that there is no impersonification of the candidate there, right? So it's going to be a very huge yeah, you know,
We
thank
also
you.
have seen people where they are pretending that they're talking in the
Yes,
video.
yes.
Somebody
Now be
else is
very
talking.
cautious, Lakshman. Trust me, the
So
whole day goes
the
by with.
questions will make a major
Right,
impact
right.
when you are in that
Absolutely.
kind of situation.
Absolutely. Uh,
Uh,
okay, having said that, Jayashree, I think I also see a couple of challenges.
mhm.
Initially, definitely, TA was a process, was a very human touch process, right? And suddenly we've adapted to this change and we moved to
Mhm.
virtual process and we're talking about virtual screening, video interviews. Having said that, from a long-term perspective, definitely we are all concerned that, um, how do we maintain the candidate experience and throughout the journey? See, they're all skeptical till this. A lot of people, when we're talking, right, we're doing this candidate engagement connects, and a lot of people ask us this question because they're not having that. We're all human beings, and we're like used to having that face-to-face connect. So they're asking, they're not very comfortable, though we have the practice leaders or the business leaders who join, and you have the HR person who's joining and all, but they kind of somewhere have still the apprehension. Is it the right time? Do I really have to move when I'm not even going to the location, not seeing the campus? I don't know anything. And then there is this courier arriving with your laptop, right? So,
Mhm.
and you have to start your work, and you don't know your colleagues in the project. I don't know what kind of tools that project might be using. Would I be given the proper transition? Right? All these queries are definitely coming up. So that's one thing that we are focusing on. I'm working with multiple teams to ensure that the candidate feels or the person whom we are feeling employee feels very secure. And also from a talent acquisition perspective, right, we are obviously, the business dynamics are changing. There's so much of uncertainty in the business that so obviously talent acquisition is a function which you will have to prepare in advance, and the talent pipelines are prepared in advance. But having said that, tomorrow your customer doesn't have the requirement, he needs something
Correct.
else, and the pipeline doesn't talk about that particular resource, right? So these
Mhm.
are the definite challenges. Yes.
Yeah.
And other thing
Yeah.
is any kind of variation what Swati talked about, right, will lead to early attrition because we don't
Yes.
have a complete control on the candidate because there's no bonding in the
So
course of time. So the
correct.
candidate experience would be the vital element
Absolutely.
right from the talent acquisition touch base call, first
First
call.
point.
We are like a salespeople now. We need to create
Mhm.
that impact until the onboarding experience. Onboarding experience is one of the most important factor to create that perception in the candidate, the
Correct.
personal
Yeah.
touch.
Yeah. Yeah. The personal touch has to be there, and you have to do it with technology these days. And so, hopefully, Aditya, what are your
Very
challenges and gaps you see?
just very quickly to add to what Swati and Lakshman said, one is that the skilled candidates are in demand. While there are many who don't have the jobs and they are available, but there are skilled candidates are in demand. So Swati, Lakshman, they will know that the drop-off ratio or the post-offer dropout is continues to remain in the IT industry as 30+%. So if you have made 100 offers, then maybe 70 people would actually join. So that's one challenge that continues. The demand for skilled people
Continue.
continues, and then typically the skills that are in demand, especially for those higher end, high demand skills, the opportunities for those people are quite many. So that is one challenge that all the talent acquisition professionals have to face, and how they deal with it. Of course, there are methods of dealing with it. I don't think there is one silver bullet, but one has to deal with it. That's the major part of it. I like Lakshman's simile that the TA people are like salespeople. They are trying
Mhm.
to,
Absolutely.
and I run a TA business and have been in this business for many years. I know we say we are less of an HR company, more of a sales company. So when I go to campuses, I say that if you are trying to become an HR professional, don't join me, because if you are
Mhm.
interested in being a salesperson, then come and work with me. You will enjoy life, and I'm sure Swati and Lakshman will agree with this.
Of
So,
course.
so that's a big challenge actually for all the people who are in PA industry. in the interest of time, I'll not talk about the other points. Let's take
I think,
questions.
Jayashree, we have questions.
Oh, yeah, we have questions. Sabah, do you want to moderate the
Yeah,
questions?
another question, if what's the impact on campus placements due to the whole COVID? So what has the impact been there?
Right. So probably I can take this, Ava. So
Yeah.
So definitely there is been an impact in the sense the numbers are not going to be so aggressive. But having said that, I think all the organizations, in fact, I was talking to some of my other peers as well. The numbers have been already finalized, and the campus season obviously is the August to September, which is it's going to start, and definitely it's going to be a virtual process.
Okay.
Other than just to add on what Swati conveyed is there will be delay in the start dates for some of the candidates whom the offers have been already made. That is one thing. And second thing is there will be a huge change in the selection process. So because we were used to go travel and visit, right? So until the new normal is there where we can afford to visit, so the candidates or the students should also adhere to the new normal in terms of the screening process. So we also need to get aligned towards the technology. Sometimes we have seen, right, our own kids for the first few weeks, they had hiccups in terms of connecting to a Zoom or the call drops out. Now they are very far better than us. They talk the same language what we talk to their own teacher. So that's how it is. I think the change process would happen very soon. And numbers will be definitely good over a period of time until after the storm settles. There will be huge correction in the way we look at the talent. So a good graduate trainee who has good potential is a possible opportunity for me to hire rather than investing in a senior hire is what could be one thing. And there will be a huge demand for finishing schools. So finishing schools are people who actually take the raw talent, enable them into a specific course like a track, like technology track or a kind of a development track. So these are the schools who will have a major role where they enable the raw talent and assessment partners like companies like Aditya or all these people who are enabling this raw talent will have a good deal in terms of negotiating. Because when I get this talent to the company within 2 to 3 months, these people are productive rather than I invest in 3 to 6 months in a raw talent. So this is something very quick. So a company which doesn't have a huge numbers and are looking at people for a plug and play role. So this is a possible opportunity for them to look at the talent.
Okay,
and it's very good in terms of the cost also, very cost effective.
Yeah. Swati had a hard stop at 6.
Yeah.
So Swati, thank you. But we will
much.
continue with the questions with Lakshman and Aditya, if you don't mind hanging
sure.
there for 5-10 more minutes.
No
Thank you
problem.
so much for being part
Thank
of
you
the
so much.
panel.
Yeah.
Swati, it's been a pleasure having you
Yeah,
here.
same here, Jayashree. Thanks, Sabha, and great talking to both of you, Lakshman and Aditya. Have a
Thanks,
nice
Swati.
evening.
Nice knowing
Bye-bye.
you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Sabha, about other questions?
So there are like 3 questions here. One is like about like what are the specific competencies which you all are looking out? That's what a fresher is asking here. What are the specific competencies when hiring a HR candidate? And also
Usually
yeah.
as a company or as an HR, because I tend to decide a candidate before we finalize the company. The first thing what I look at is the attitude. That is more important because we believe in attitude rather than skills, because skills is something which we can always inherit and we can enable them. That's the first thing. And agile. The person should be agile and very flexible towards what the business looks at. And I keep this telling to all the placement officers in the college campuses, don't induce into the candidate mindset saying that you need to look for a tier 1 company or you need to have this own technology and all. Go and work and explore along with the opportunity, what comes along with the market or with the company. So this is third one what I look at. And the fourth one is the person should be eager to learn, that the passion and that hunger should be there to explore. That Aditya said, we need to reinvent ourselves. Like today I'm at 18 or 17 years experience, doesn't mean that I relax. That means you perish in the market very soon. So rather you need to continuously invest. So today I'm in talent acquisition. Tomorrow I can be in something else. So I need to continuously invest in my skills and know my potential. As a fresher, now if you take this last 8 to 9 months, this is a very crucial time. So if I'm a HR, I get a fresher, an opportunity to interview, I would firstly ask, what did you learn in this pandemic? And that gives me an opportunity to understand what kind of personality the person is.
Okay. So there's a question from Roshni Varma. As a tech recruiter, how can we streamline and optimize the initial hiring process?
Sorry, what is the question again?
As a tech recruiter, how can we streamline and optimize the initial hiring process?
So basically, I keep telling the same to my team is you should never hire for a specific person. Says I understand if it's a consulting company, you get the demand as and when. But if you're working in a tech company, you always know what your legacy skills are, or you also know what your skills you're going to hire. You need to build that pipeline, the relationship management. Today, I'm adding a contact for some reason. I'm building a pipeline. Doesn't mean that I'm only looking at that particular instance. This particular contract can be useful for my future need. So LinkedIn is such good platform. It's a free platform. You try to create whenever you have that opportunity, you need to create that inventory. Second thing is you should know where your target is. Suppose a company like Wipro is a service company. And if I'm trying to hire for a Wipro from a Deloitte, example, I'm not taking any of the names. Deloitte is a hardcore product company. So what are the possibilities of candidate joining from Deloitte to Wipro is you need to understand. You need to understand what is the candidate motivation. Motivation is could be a position or a compensation or an on-site opportunity. These are multiple factors, right? So when you try to pipeline the talent, you need to understand the motivation, the career drivers, what is real passion about it. I'm sure you have a lot of portals, you have a lot of resumes. Getting a resume is not a big deal, right? Identifying the candidate, what aligns towards the business need, and what is that your organization has. What can you give to him? That is a difference. That is where, as a tech recruiter, you should be very smart. You need to be very smart in identifying what fits our need. I think I could answer that question, or you still want more clarification. I'm happy to help.
No, I think.
Can add some.
Yeah,
Sabha,
Aditya, please
if I
go
can
ahead.
just add to this.
Yeah, sure.
Lakshman has given a lot of relevant and very, very valuable inputs. Just to add to what Lakshman said, just one or two aspects. I think many times recruiters forget about what the candidate is looking for. So they don't. They talk about what they have got to offer or what they are looking for. They actually don't. I mean, that brings back to the point about a recruiter being a salesperson. A salesperson tries to match between the consumer's need or the customer's need with the solution that he or she has to offer. So it is all about, first, it's all about understanding what the customer is looking for. In recruitment, we have two customers. One side is the candidate and another side is the line manager or the interviewer or the organization who will hire. So both sides I need to understand. Many times in my experience, I have seen that the tech, not only tech recruiters, any other recruiter tends to look at the job description, look at the skills, look at the target companies, look at the years of experience, the key skills required and the exposure, and then they do some search and talk to the candidate saying that, hey, this is what I have got to offer, this will be good for you. Okay, without understanding what the candidate is looking at and without trying to figure out or influence the candidate's thinking in some way, if it is possible. So that is one point I would like to suggest. I'm sure the senior recruiters, it has become by default, it has, it has become their habit to understand the candidate as well as the client. They do it out of habit, like you don't consciously put your brain to while we are brushing our teeth. It has become our habit. So so that is one point I wanted to mention. The second one is to kind of understand that it could be the same skills, but two line managers may be looking for some differences, some nuances of what they are looking at. So understanding those small nuances and trying to figure out whether this candidate has that or not. Many times we go by talent acquisition professionals go by the skills mentioned, or they interview candidates based on the skills, but they don't really go deeper than the skills, because the job description was created for a generic purpose. It could be the same .NET developer with 5 years of experience having worked in the healthcare domain, as an example I'm saying, but one line manager may be looking at some particular aspect of maybe the softer skills of the candidate, or maybe has to deal with a project with a with the project manager who is looking for this kind of personality. So it is about those aspects also learning. Just these 2 points to add to what Lakshman said.
So Sabha, maybe one more question
Yeah.
we can take.
So there's a question from Shivali Khanna. What should be a candidate's priority right now? Company, brand, or job role?
Firstly, if you ask me, I would say your manager, because people leave their bosses, not the companies, and people stay for their boss, not for companies. That is my personal view, and fortunate I had both in the past. Second thing is, more than the brand, I would look at what is in for you, how you can grow as an individual. And money, position will definitely automatically come once you prove yourself. And doesn't mean that you join a company which doesn't have roots or a rational, but whatever you take as a decision as an individual, you need to understand how you can grow. Like the same way how you are expecting a candidate skill for him to decide a job, the same way you also need to be very, very clear like what you want. And once you're clear what you want, I think the size of the organization, the brand definitely falls in place. And one important thing which we should always keep in mind is nobody will start from step 100. We should start from step 1. So wherever the possibility is there, I think you should start, which is helping you. And this is applicable for fresher, but for experienced people like us, I think over a period of time, your priority changes. 6-7 years back, my priority could be being a title as a manager. 4 years back, money could be my priority. After some point of time, power could be my priority. Over a period of time, maybe I want to be safe and secure. So the career drives keep changing. So for experienced people, definitely I cannot tell what is your priority and what you need to look at. But for people who are very, very passionate, I think you need to look at where you can learn. Once you learn and acquire your skills, I think you can always grab opportunity whichever is available to you.
Great.
Over to you, sir.
Aditya.
Okay. I think well articulated, so nothing more to add.
Okay. So that's all the questions we have. Jayashree, so
Okay. So thank you, Lakshman. Thank you, Aditya. It was a great discussion, and we know it is a challenging environment for all of us right now. But how talent acquisition has changed, we learned a lot. I learned a lot, especially from all of you, in terms of how technology is helping in terms of the talent acquisition. How, like, from AI to Aditya's your tool in terms of how you are able to mine the data and even create a profile, from the HR tool Lakshman, which you are using to have a good candidate experience, as well as the experience for the recruitment side as well, right? So it's a great, and it is evolving, and we will continue to have the conversations, I think. But it's been a great pleasure having you here. Thank you. Thank you for taking out the time and being part of our panel series.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Jayashree.
much.
Thank you, Sabha.
thank you, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you very much.
audience, for being there and asking your questions. And without you, it wouldn't have been a success. Thank you, everyone. And we look forward for all your feedback once you get the feedback survey. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sabha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Aditya.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lakshman. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.